Thank you, Jane. Absolutely. Happy to take it away. So let me just do this real quick. I'm going to go through a few slides. I'm not going to kill you by slides, I promise. I know we have 30 to 45 minutes, and the goal is to really get into a demo and show that, especially to the developers that have joined this call that were not on the previous call. All right, so I know the previous call, we did go into a deep dive on some of the operational bits of OpenShift and security. That's not what we're going to do here. We're just going to level set very quickly and get into the demo. So my name is Kelly Hare. I'm a sales specialist here at Red Hat. Been around for about a year and a half. I've worked at developer tool companies in the past. I've worked at cloud platform companies, automation companies, been around the block a little bit, so to speak, as far as that goes. All right, so let me go ahead and just dive into the presentation. And the first bit we wanted to cover is what is OpenShift, and why does what are the business outcomes of that? It's a turnkey application platform. It's really to help you focus on your core business as opposed to running IT or having to run a new set of IT services. It's also about speed, accelerating time to value. Back in 2013, when I was at Chef, Barry Christ, the CEO of Chef, came up on Chef Conf, the keynote, and talked about how speed was the new currency. And it wasn't really necessarily acknowledged as much 10 years ago, but it is today. How can you do things faster and safe at that? The third bit is about hybrid cloud flexibility. Whether you run OpenShift on-prem, which is where it all kind of started, or if you're running a hyperscaler, colo, wherever it may be, the interface is going to be the same. So it provides consistency across those different domains. And the last bit, this is specifically really more for the managed OpenShift, which is what we're covering today, operational efficiency. So we have SREs, or site reliability engineers, that I think we logged over 2 million hours of SRE experience overall within Red Hat. So we have a lot, we definitely have a lot of expertise in this area. All right. When we talk about OpenShift, a lot of people go, it's just a Kubernetes. It's like, well, sure, it's Kubernetes on the base level, but there's a huge value add or layer that's added on top of Kubernetes. We're going to cover off today is I actually have a sample CI pipeline. I'm actually hooking into GitLab repo. So trust me, there's a demo that I think will be useful to the developers here. There's a lot of bits that are attached in OpenShift itself or integrated into OpenShift is a better way to put it. So a lot of this stuff comes out of the box. And then for things that don't come out of the box, there are operators where you can quickly and easily install and update that functionality, I should say. So that's where the operators come into play. A lot of icons here. I'm not going to go through everything, but the point I want to make here is that there are a number of developer tools available. So there's everything from a web-based IDE that you can get into and quickly develop and not have to worry about environments on your workstation. It's all up in the cloud. To bits including serverless, which is kind of a nice component because a lot of folks will stick to a specific hyperscaler. Not necessarily always the best thing to do. And then Tecton, or I should say OpenShift pipelines, and that's what we're going to focus more on today because I know that was a part that was interesting to folks here. And then also source to image. Source to image is where we have some automation under the covers that is going to automatically go out and build and deploy an application into an OpenShift cluster. So you don't have to worry about Docker files as much. You don't have to worry about YAML as much as you would without OpenShift. So there's a lot of there's a lot of bits that are there that we integrate and provide with OpenShift that can be very useful for developers. All right, I'm not going to belabor this. You can run OpenShift anywhere. That's pretty much what this slide is saying. Again, today, we're going to be focusing on our ROSA, which we call or Red Hat OpenShift Service on AWS, or ROSA for short. We're going to be focusing in on this. With that being said, we also have Arrow, which is very popular amongst public sector agencies as well. All right, some features. And again, we're going to get through the slides here quickly. Self-service. So all about the promise of cloud with self-service. Support and monitoring and security. We actually provide as part of ROSA patching, monitoring of core components. So like the egress router for example. If that goes down, we're notified. We notify you. We're fixing that in the background as far as the site reliability engineering teams. Patching. We can set up change windows, right? And provide upgrades and updates during those change windows. So you can still have a very prescriptive change window or change management process that ROSA would fit into with our SRE team. Tools integration. It's a first party system within AWS, meaning that anything within AWS we can access. And then the last bit is flexible pricing. We start out as hourly or consumption-based pricing, and then if you want to, if you know that you're going to have workloads that run for a year, 3 years, what have you, you can actually have an EDP with Amazon, and you can actually burn down that EDP or that committed spend with ROSA or pretty much any Red Hat cloud service, which is great. And I think that's a way to where you have a single unified bill, but then at the same time, you're able to see cost savings by going on a 1 or 3 year term basis. If you go to the AWS console, you'll see that Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS is right there. Again, it is a first party service to Amazon. All right. I promise you that was all the slides we're going to do. So I am not going to continue to go down this path. I want to really dive in more to the demo. We're about 6 minutes in right now, so this is perfect. All right, so the first thing, let me go ahead and just transition back over. The first thing I want to show is that this is what it looks like when you jump into ROSA. Now, you'll see HT password is my authentication method. All right, you can have others. You can any OIDC provider, or you could have GitLab, GitHub. You could have LDAP as well. There's a number of different security providers or identity providers that you can integrate directly into this. All right, going to go ahead and log in. Now I do not save my passwords. So the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. I'm going to do this off screen so it doesn't bother everybody. So let me grab that. In this case, I'm going to use cluster admin. All right, so this is a main screen when you first log into OpenShift. This is actually running up in ROSA, and you'll see that right here, which is kind of nice. There are two main personas or two main targets within OpenShift. One is an administrator persona, and the next is the developer. The administrator is where you're going to set up all the bits you'd imagine, like storage, your pipeline builds, operators. This is where you install operators. Actually, one of the things I do want to show you is Operator Hub, which is a collection of operators that have been created by Red Hat, community folks, and also partners of Red Hat. So these have been certified operators that we work with a number of different partners on. And the list goes on, put it that way. And you can see that they're also delineated by where they came in from, if it was a community or if it's Red Hat created or certified partner, etc. Now, from an installed operator's side, the only thing I've really installed on this so far is OpenShift pipelines. There's some other bits that are here that are automatically installed, but I installed the OpenShift pipelines. I actually did from the command line. You can do it by going in and going to the Operator Hub, finding it, installing it, and off you go. It's actually pretty intuitive from that perspective. All right, so and actually I should also state that since I installed that pipelines operator, it added a menu item as well, which is pretty nice. So really nice integration with the UI as well. All right, so let me go to the developer, and what I'm going to do on this part of the demo is I'm going to actually create a new project. Now, if you have Kubernetes experience, a project is basically a namespace, but we call them projects because we actually predated Kubernetes with this product. We moved over to Kubernetes in the 4.x release of it when Google open sourced the Borg, which is what we know as Kubernetes. But we had the concept of projects, and that we've continued to use that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and create a project, and in this case, I'm going to use I'm going to call this Pet Clinic. This is the name of the project I'm creating. I'm going to actually use a tried and true Pet Clinic repo from our friends at Pivotal, or I guess VMware now. So now that I've created this project, and everything I'm doing here, I can do on the command line as well. So don't worry about having to be in the UI all the time. But all right, so let me go ahead and say, you can see that it says, okay, nothing's here. What do you want to do? It's like, well, I'm gonna go to the add page to take a look at what I have available. In this case, I want to import a project that I already have up in GitLab. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to grab the URL here, pop it in, and when I do this, some magic happens, or seemingly magic, I should say. Builder image detected. Basically, what it's saying here is that I have different paths I can go. I can say I want to use one of these builder images that you suggest, Red Hat, or I can actually point it to a Docker file or a dev file and basically use that specific item to build the container itself. The builder image in this case is fine. I have not changed anything. I've not added a Docker file. It just looked at the repo and said, you know what? This looks like a Spring Boot application. Right. I'm going to use Java for this. Right. Or OpenJDK. Now you'll also see UBI 8. UBI is Universal Base Image, Basic Income. Universal base image, and what that is it's produced by Red Hat. It's Rail 8 under the covers in this case, and it's hardened, it's small, it's fast, it's secure. It's definitely a good way to go. Now, just flipping through here, there's some default options that are added. I'm not going to make any changes there. What I am going to do though is I'm going to add a pipeline. Now, I pre-configured this, so don't think there's complete magic here. I did configure the pipeline previously. I'm using a sample one, and what that looks like is it has 3 main tasks with some subtasks associated with it. So there's a git clone, then go out and build, and then push it to the local Docker registry with an OpenShift. So OpenShift includes a Docker or a container registry, I should say. And I'm going to deploy it and then be able to view that here. So let's see here. Anything else? Create route. Yes. Okay. So the other thing that I should probably mention, and I know we talked about this 3-4 weeks ago, but this is another really nice automation of OpenShift for developers. You don't have to figure out how to expose a service once you brought it up. So if you've done anything in Kubernetes, you know you have a Docker file, and then once you do that, you have to expose a service. We do all that under the covers. So it makes it very easy for developers to get started in a Kubernetes type environment within OpenShift. All right, so let me go ahead and create this. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and pull that repo. And this is our topology view, which is what is going to come up by default. And we actually have 2 pods here. We have one with a container for Spring Pet Clinic. And then we have one for this event listener. It's a trigger, basically. What that means is that I need to configure a webhook on the GitLab side, which I'll do very quickly, and I'll show you what that looks like. That will then ensure that whenever you make any changes, those changes are updated and pipeline runs. But that being said, let me go ahead and take a look at the pipelines here. We should have a pipeline running, and yes, we do. And what is it doing? Okay, it's going out. It fetched the repo, so you can see the output there. We can actually take a look at the build. So it's just starting here. So what I want to do now is I want to configure the trigger while we're waiting for that build to go through. So let me go ahead and go here. And I'm going to grab this route. Remember, this is a route. This is the external connection back into this trigger. So let me go ahead and grab this. Now I'm going to go back over. This is actually the GitLab project itself. So let me go to settings, and I'm going to go to webhooks. And this is what we imported, basically. I'm going to pop in that URL, and I'm going to basically say for any push events, create a trigger. Now, there's a secret token. I'm not going to configure that here, but you can do that. You would basically create a secret in OpenShift, attach it, and then you would just ensure that whatever secret you create in OpenShift, you would copy and paste that in here so it would match up on both sides. All right, so let me add this webhook. And actually, I didn't change anything else. That should be fine. Let me test it. I'm going to test it for push events. And yay, that worked. Got a 202, a 200 series, right? So that's great. And just kind of give you an idea, this is not going to just give you a 200 for anything. So let me do comments. It's going to probably Oops, hold on. Actually, we do a wiki page event to test that. Hook failed. Did you enable? Okay, good. So basically, it's showing that the push is working. All right. So let me go back over to our handy dandy OpenShift project, and it looks like this may have finished. Let's take a look here. Pipelines. Oh nope, it's still running. Let's take a look. Where are we? Okay. Looks like it needed to pull in that UBI instance itself. So the first time you're always going to pull an image that is being stored in the Docker registry, and now it is going through and it is actually building it's going through Maven and building the application itself. All right, so this should be done here very shortly. This is where I song and dance and tap my feet for a little bit. And it looks like we are about done with the build, I believe. We should be. I tested this this morning before we got on and it looked like it was fine. Though I will tell you, it looks like it's taking a little more time to build this time. Of course, live demos, gotta love them. All right. So let me go back to the topology view while that's building. Maybe we can use some time here to kind of walk through what's happening. So within this atomic unit, if you had like multiple containers, they would show up here. We would if you had service mesh enabled, and you could actually have like a collection of these, and you can also have it. You can also map this out. So there's some fun stuff here that's included. Let me just take a look at our build. Okay, so that's all done. Great. Let me go back over to topology view, and there's a couple different ways I can get to this. I can click on the open URL here. I can go to the route. Let me just, in fact, I just noticed I'm looking at the trigger. Here we go. I can click on the route here or click there. I can go back to my repo here. So there's a number of different help buttons there. All right, so this is our Spring app, Pet Clinic. Been around forever. It's a classic. Says welcome. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick change. This is not going to be like magic or anything, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick change in VS Code. So I'm using my tools. Again, if you want to use our web ID, our dev spaces, great. But if you have your own prescriptive tooling set that you want to use, by all means, please use it. All right, so let me go ahead and flip over to VS Code. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this welcome and add something like welcome to Pet Clinic. All right, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to check it in. So let me go ahead and stage it. I'm going to say with enthusiasm, commit it. All right, so it's committed locally. Now let me push it back up to the GitLab repo. All right, so let me go and flip back over, and what we should see is we should see another pipeline at this point running, which there is, which is great. Our webhook is working. And if we look at GitLab, if we look at the, actually let me go to the project information, there should be a new commit that basically shows that we changed this to Pet Clinic. Great. All right, so now all we need to do is we just need to wait for this build to complete. And actually, let me stop here since it's going to take a second for the build to complete, as we saw earlier. Are there any questions based upon what you've seen so far? Song and dance, song and dance, song and dance. Good question. I'll write it down. My essay's not here. Okay. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep. I got that written down. I'll follow up on that. So you're asking about how do we deal with different environments in the same cluster? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Venus would you would answer that in a heartbeat. All right, I'll write that down. Yeah, no, absolutely. So you can use the web-based interface. Absolutely, it's a web ID. It's Eclipse Chi and it has, I think, VS Code built into it as well. So it's very similar to a desktop utility. Yep. No, no. I mean, you certainly can use EKS as well. The difference is that this includes a lot of the automations and ability to get started quickly, especially for developers that don't want to have to deal with Docker files and the operational bits that come along with Kubernetes. Yeah, yeah. It's a good question. Yeah, we get that a lot. Yeah, absolutely. All right, looks like this is done. All right, so let's get back to our topology view. And okay, it's all blue. If you see like this little blue circle in the middle with the other blue, that means it's deploying, so it's all done. Let's go ahead and use it this way. Now we have welcome to Pet Clinic. All right, compared to welcome. So that change we made locally in our VS Code, committed that to the Git repo or committed that to Git, and then pushed it up to GitLab. Then the webhook fired to say, hey, Red Hat or ROSA, you got a new commit. The pipeline ran to pull that. You sourced the image when okay, this is Java based. I'm going to go ahead and do all these things and basically then deploy it back out to OpenShift and also a route associated with that. All right, so that I believe is the end of the presentation. Now, mind you, typically you're going to be using feature branches as opposed to developing in main. It's a bad habit or a bad anti-pattern or an anti-pattern, I should say. So don't take the fact that I was committing into main as being the way you have to develop, because that's not the case. And on top of that, if we look at the pipeline itself, let me just go back to this for a sec. Let me go back to my pipeline. Typically what we would see is we want to have just these tasks. We would have more tasks. Like for example, there could be code quality, there could be linting, there could be static analysis, dynamic analysis. There could be fuzzing. There's all kinds of jobs you could have on that. You could have it for every commit, or you could have it just on merge requests or pull requests. I know you use GitLab. A lot of agencies use GitLab because of the fact that it's like, it's, well, actually, I won't get into the reasons why, but yes, you use GitLab, and we hooked right into that, no problem. We work with GitLab on a number of different agencies as well. So what we're looking at with those agencies is running GitLab in OpenShift, the GitLab runners instead of OpenShift pipelines, having the GitLab CI run in OpenShift itself. So all those runners, the ephemeral jobs, and then the resulting workloads run in OpenShift. So we're partnering with them closely on a number of agencies right now. Yeah, good question. Good question. All right. So, I think that's about all I wanted to show here. Let me just get back to our slide deck. I wanted to see if there's anything else to cover off. I probably should have brought that one up. Whoops. That's exactly what we did. So let me just make sure we did everything. Yep. Create a project. Yep. Deploy an application. Yep. Made a simple change. Yep. And review. Yep. So we did all 5 of those. So let's go ahead and move on. Now, I know that this is really kind of more of a follow-up from 3 weeks ago, but there were some questions about some of the numbers and what we've seen. So again, we have over 2 million hours of SRE experience here at Red Hat. And actually, I'm just going to skip over this slide because I don't want to get into that. But I want to focus in more on this. This is all the different bits that we monitor, all the different components we monitor within ROSA. So it's not just looking at, hey, did a node go down? Should we restart it? But it's actually looking at what about the authentication? What about cluster services upgrading? What about the router availability? There's a lot of different components that we're actually monitoring actively within that. And then I think that was about it, because I don't want to really belabor points here, because I know this is a mixed audience. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up. If there's no other questions, then I want to thank you all very much for your time today. And if anything does come up, by all means, please reach out. I did have a couple of questions. I had question 1 and question 2 that I need to follow up on, and I'll get answers to those from my solutions architect when I can get back in, when she's back from emergency, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you very much, Jane, for hosting this and bringing in a diverse audience. I hope this was very useful. All right, with that, let me go ahead and stop the recording, and we're good.